Welcome to Kop Talk on a particularly freezy, rainy Friday afternoon. This is Larry Levin, and I am here with Bob Cohn, and we're here for Kop Talk to talk again about issues of the day affecting and relating to the Jewish community.
Glad to be here as always.
Bob, from Ecclesiastes, we get the potent saying, nothing new under the sun. As we listen to the kvetching about the lies and distortions in the presidential election cycle, I must ask you, with your vast experience of observing politics, is there anything new under the sun here about what we're seeing in this campaign?
Well, we've had dirty campaigns going way, way back, but I think this is a particularly mean-spirited or just plain mean campaign.
You think it's more mean?
Well, I think that there's the polarization between the parties. There is the various biases among lots of the media, the kind of an adversarial relationship that many of them have with the various candidates, and the equally combative tone on the part of some of the candidates. In particular, the very skilled debater Newt Gingrich, who last night was called out on his wife's allegations about his infidelity, and he proceeded to devour the questioner. So that part has really changed, I think, not necessarily for the better.
And what's interesting is, to me, is that even though we have websites like PolitiFact that kind of calls out what's true and not true in political statements, it seems like people are making statements regardless of whether they're true or not. There's a lot of focus in this cycle on the social justice issue of concentration of wealth, and Jews in this nation largely rose to their relative affluence through the ability to break the cycle of immigrant poverty, through hard work, focus on education, commitment to the next generation. So does this issue resonate with you particularly as a Jewish issue, or do you think these are just unjust potshots being taken at the wealthy?
It's a little bit of both, but I do think it resonates to me Jewishly as well. Pure laissez-faire capitalism brought about the Depression. Runaway socialism brought about the tyranny of the Soviet Union. So you need, in democracies, a mixture of both. And we've gotten to the point where it's a completely either-or situation. And there is a tremendous concentration of wealth. There's nothing inherently sinful about being wealthy. I think there's some commonality even between the Tea Party and the Occupy Wall Street people, that they see that there is a concentration of power in an increasingly smaller number of entities.
I think in an era of economic non-growth, it makes the issue that much worse. So going back to Martin Luther King, since we're in the period of his birthday,
yes,
he essentially said in various quotes that if racial and other forms of equality are not paired with economic opportunity, then there's really little progress to speak of. Do you agree? And if so, how does this translate into what's going on today?
I mentioned the other day that I heard for the first time in years the entire I Have a Dream speech, and a lot of that language was in there.
Yeah.
Once the legal rights had been established, the elimination of Jim Crow and its vestiges, and all the wonderful byproducts of the civil rights movement, we still have the tremendous, 25% of the African American population is unemployed.
I know, it's disgusting.
It really is. So that aspect of King's legacy, I think, needs to be revisited and re-embraced.
Moving on to international issues. If you were Bibi Netanyahu today, would you authorize, and I mean today, would you authorize an open strike on Iranian nuclear sites with aerial bunker buster bombs? And if so, why? And if not, why not?
I would not authorize it today in this icy, slick day when I may not even make it home with my car. But I would have a plan in place to do it.
Well, what's your trigger point? When do you do it?
The trigger point is if indeed any faction manages to get the Strait of Hormuz closed, that is really a red line.
Why would that give Israel permission to attack a nuclear site in Iran?
That wouldn't give Israel permission to attack a nuclear site in Iran, but it would be a tripwire which would bring in NATO, the United States, and possibly Israel. I'm not sure I see that happening until after the United States elections have taken place.
Well, what if gas gets to be $5, because it can't be transported?
Can't be ruled out. I mean, they were paying $7 a gallon in Europe after the last oil embargo.
Right. Does the ascent of the Muslim Brotherhood to the plurality position in Egypt necessarily mean or bode poor relations with Israel? And what has to happen, do you think, for Israel and Egypt to maintain treaties and relatively harmonious relations?
In the short term, it doesn't look good because they are explicitly, avowedly opposed to the existence of a Jewish state. On the other hand, they've been around, the Muslim Brotherhood, since 1928.
Right.
There are factions within them. We both co-wrote an editorial praising the administration's outreach to the Muslim Brotherhood. They are de facto the coming ruling bloc in Egypt, and if we don't have some kind of contact with them, it's very to our disadvantage not to establish, making the effort to see if there is moderation.
Anything else on your mind today?
Well, I think also the outreach of the Taliban is another interesting thing. I was very much opposed to it. Now I think there is merit, because I think just like the Muslim Brotherhood, there are some important differences, but there may be some moderation on the part of some of the segments of the Taliban.
And the Taliban did not start out as a militant organization. It was not,
Exactly.
They were not our enemies when they rose to prominence initially, and then they were kind of pushed in the terrorist direction.
Exactly.
I think we've talked enough. Thanks for seeing us on Kop Talk.